Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads. I recently had a little bit of a holiday to Glasgow to go and see a very highbrow theatre show with my friends and I took that as an opportunity to visit some bookshops. So this video is going to be a book haul of all of the lovely books I picked up while I was in Glasgow. I will pop the details of all of the bookshops in the description in case anybody fancies getting themselves some really good books. I was going to say that I didn't intend to buy as many books as I did. I bought 16, but if I'm being honest, the only reason I didn't buy more is just my lack of upper body strength and I could not carry any more books home. I suppose let's just start. So my first stop was category is books, which is an independent queer bookshop in the south side of Glasgow. This bookshop had been highly recommended to me by so many of my friends, and as soon as I entered the bookshop I realised why. It was just such a charming shop and the staff were lovely and the selection of books was amazing. I showed such great restraint while I was there. I only bought 6 books. They wrapped them up in brown paper and it looks a little bit crumpled, but that's simply because these books have travelled from Glasgow to Aberdeen in my rucksack. So they have had quite a journey and I'm really glad that they were wrapped up because I didn't have to worry about wrapping my clothes around the books to protect them, because that's what I did with all the others. The first book was Bestiary by Ming Chang, and this is a book that I remembered reading about. I think I saw it on Goodreads maybe, and then I couldn't remember the title or the author and I couldn't find the book. So I'm very happy to have found it and I'm very much looking forward to reading it. This book is all about a young girl who hears a fairy story about a person who turns into a tiger and she ends up turning into a tiger. It's also a love story between her and the girl who lives next door. In addition to that, the protagonist and her brother found some letters from their estranged grandmother. So there's all of that whole family history going on, and this book just sounds like it's just going to be jam-packed full of excellent stuff and I'm so excited to read it. The next book that I picked up was All the White Spaces by Wilkes, and unlike the last book, I had no idea what this book was about. This book had a little card on it that said that it was spooky and gothic and a little bit chilling, and I thought, well, I like those things. I'm not really into scary things, but I like gothic and chilling, which I suppose is a little bit scary. But I'm gonna read it and I'm hopeful that I'm gonna love it. This was sort of like a polar expedition that goes awry, and it just sounded a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I had the momentum of buying all the books, so I'm giving it a go. I also picked up The Extraordinaries by Tj Cloon. I have yet to meet a Tj Cloon book that I don't love. I hope that never happens. I like knowing that I'm probably gonna love a book if it's written by Tj Cloon. So that is 100% why I bought this book. I don't even really know what it's about. But if it's anything like the other books I've read by this author, it's going to be heartwarming, charming, and have a really adorable romance in it. So I'm excited by this. I also could not resist buying Vicky, Romeo and Jules by Eli Percy. Eli Percy wrote Dark Feet, which I absolutely loved. It was my favourite book of last year, so how could I resist buying this? And this is perhaps an unlikely romance set in 2001 in Glasgow. So I mean, that's a little bit before the time that I lived there, but I still think that it's going to be kind of nostalgic for me. So I'm so looking forward to reading this, and the last book I read by this author was amazing, so I think I'm in for a good time. Next one was Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, and I actually saw this on Instagram. This was the only book that I knew that I wanted to pick up when I went into the bookshop, and this book is about a woman who returns from a deep sea mission changed, and that's pretty much all I know about it. But I also know that two people I know have read and really enjoyed this book, and we have quite similar reading tastes, so I was feeling pretty confident that I was also going to love this book, so here's hoping I do. And the last book that I picked up was You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book I saw all over BookTube and Bookstagram last year. I think it was last year anyway, and I've wanted to read it for such a long time. It's one of those books that I just never got around to buying, like so many other books, but I have it now and it's a second-hand copy, so I'm gonna actually get round to it. And this book is all about Liz, who is wanting to go to college, and in order to get there she is hoping to win prom queen to get a scholarship. And there's something about being an adult and reading books set in high school that is kind of, I don't know, it's quite nice being like, oh, I don't need to do that again, I've done it, my time is done. So yeah, I'm really excited to read it, and I'm already rooting for the main character to win prom queen. I don't know anything about them. So after I finished in category is books, I went to Outwith Books, which is also in the south side of Glasgow, and it's really near a really nice vegan donut place. I also recommend there. And I only bought 2 books in this shop, so I picked up The Yellow Wallpaper and Selected Writing by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, and I feel like I've been seeing this book everywhere. I may not have been, but I feel like I keep seeing this book when I go into charity shops and bookshops, and it's almost like the world is telling me I need to buy this book. Is that even a thing, or am I just remembering that I've seen this book maybe one time and convinced myself that I've seen it more? Either way, I saw it, I took it as a sign, and I bought it. This book is, well, The Yellow Wallpaper is about a lady who is confined to bed rest and sort of starts seeing things in the wallpaper in the room that she's been confined in, I think. I also got a book that I can now take off of my Amazon wishlist, which is The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbary. And this book is about a concierge in a Parisian building, and she has, you know, hopes and dreams out with her career, as of course she does. We all do. And there's a death in the building which kind of changes everything. And Outwith Books had an adorable dog that I was going to say worked there, but I don't think the dog worked there. But the dog was there and was just so adorable and wanted all of the attention, and the person working at the bookshop kept apologising for the dog, but there was no need. It was adorable and I wanted to give the dog attention. And I'm going to go and let the cat out. The next shop on my trip was Oxfam Books on Byres Rd, which is in the West End of Glasgow. Maybe half of my books, while I did live in Glasgow, came from this charity shop. So I kind of wanted to go back as sort of like a trip down memory road, and the bookshop was as amazing as I remember. And there was so much to look at, but time really wasn't on my side by the time that I got there, because I was trying to do a lot of things in not a lot of time. So I only ended up getting 2 books, but they were 2 books that were also on my Amazon wishlist. So there were books I really had intended to buy at some point, and that point came. So first up was The Book of Lost and Found by Lucy Foley. I have read 3 books by Lucy Foley and I've given them all 5 stars. So I don't actually think I know what this book is about. I just know that it's by an author that I really enjoy. I also picked up The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper, and I have been I've had this book in my hand, in my grubby little mitts, so many times in Waterstones, and for whatever reason I've always put it down and picked up a different book, but the time came, I picked this, and I think this book is set in Pompeii, before that happened, and it's all about a woman who finds herself having to work in a brothel and trying to gain her freedom. So I've heard good things about this one, and I'm so happy to have got it for quite a bargain. A book shopping trip for me wouldn't feel complete without a trip to Waterstones, which was where I went next, and I got 5 books in Waterstones because I have no self-control. There are 3 Waterstones in Glasgow, which I'm so jealous of because we only have one in Aberdeen and it's quite small. But I went to the one on Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow, which is massive. It's absolutely huge, and I could have spent a whole day there looking at everything, but I didn't have time to spend a whole day there. I only had quite a short amount of time, so I picked up what I did. The first one I picked up was Deep Wheel Arcadia by Harry Josephine Giles, and I had never heard of this book before, but it's by a Scottish author and it's a sci-fi adventure, and I really enjoy sci-fi, and I feel like I've not read nearly as much as I would like to, and I haven't read a lot of sci-fi by Scottish authors. I do own a decent amount of it, I just haven't gotten to it, which I suppose there's a running theme there for me in books, but I couldn't resist this. It's all written in the Orkney dialect, which I'm not super familiar with, but I'm keen to give it a go. The next book I picked up, again, I was drawn to it because it was in the Scottish section and it was signed. I can't pronounce the title of it, so don't know how this is gonna go. It is Stabeth by David Keenan. It's also another book, The Towers, the Fields and the Transmitters. So I was very intrigued when I picked this up and saw that it kind of flips, and it is 2 different books. So that's enough for me to have bought it. I don't know anything about it, although one of my good friends did tell me that she knows people who know the author and they say nice things about the author, which always makes me feel better about buying stuff if I know somebody who knows somebody that knows they're nice. I will read this and then I will be able to say what it's about. I might even be able to pronounce it by that point. I don't know. The next book was purchased 100% because I listened to a podcast that the author is on. It's called Drunk Women Solving Crime. Female comedians get drunk and solve crime. It's brilliant. So I've got You're Not the Boss of Me by Catherine Wilkins, and this is I think a middle grade, but I'm gonna read it myself. I'm also gonna casually put it on my stepkids' bookshelf in the hope that they'll read it too, because I think it's something that would be very good for, they're only 11, I think it would be very important for them to read too. This is about a young girl who is in a school play and then a boy takes over the school play and suddenly she doesn't get to do anything fun anymore, and it's sort of like how she deals with the sexism at her school, and I think that that's something that is super important for young children to know about. So I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna casually try and encourage them to read it too. Next book was, I was gonna say I'm ashamed to say, I'm not. It was a cover buy. I saw the cover, it made me want to read about it, and then I bought it. And it's Other People's Clothes by Kala Henkel. This is set in 2009 Berlin. I love Berlin, and this is about people who live in an apartment and they think that their landlady is using them as inspiration for her writing. And I've heard that this book is really, really funny, and I want more books that are funny. And my last book from Waterstones was bought because one of my friends has read this book and highly recommended it to me, so I bought it. And it's Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. This is about a girls' school and two lovers were found dead, and then there are subsequent deaths, all quite grisly and gruesome, and then the school closed, and then it has reopened, and it's all about that, and I thought that sounded really interesting. It's also quite a chunky book, so I'm looking forward to it. That should have been my last book because I hadn't planned to go anywhere else, but I was 45 minutes early for my transport home because that's just who I am. So I went into WHSmith and I bought Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro, and this was half price and it was an option for my book club, so I hedged my bets, which is something that I do all the time, and it never works out because this book did not win the vote, but this was the book that I would have picked, so I bought it because it's the one I want to read. I will read the actual pick, it's just I will read this one because this is the one I wanted. And this book is all about an artificial friend, which I think is kind of like a robot, that is just waiting for somebody to take her home with them, and learns that humans cannot be trusted because they can't be. And I think that this is going to be really interesting, and it's kind of, again, sci-fi. It's a genre that I do love. I just never really, I don't find myself reading as often as I want to, and I kind of want to make more time for the books I want to read, so that's why I bought it. So those are my purchases. I probably won't be buying any books out of book clubs for a while because I don't have anywhere to put these. The bookshelves behind me are completely full. The bookshelves upstairs, full. But that's a problem for me of the future me that puts the books away. So if you've read any of the books that I have hauled, I would love to know how you've gotten on with them. I have checked with some of my friends and there's a few of them that they read, but there's a few books on here that I don't know anyone who's read them. So it's kind of like I'm going in with not knowing what to expect, and that's quite fun, but I would love to hear if you've read and enjoy any of these. If there's a book that you think that I should read first, then post in the comments, as I'm kind of overwhelmed with where to start. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, please like. I post videos every Sunday, so if you want to subscribe, you can do that too. Have a good week. Bye!